And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your RBLR Rays show. I'm Ben, and with me is Zach. Good morning, Zach. How's it going?
Good morning, Ben. It is going really well. Over here, it is raining. Over here, and it is cold, but it was warm the rest of the week, so I'll take one rainy day if I get a week of warmth.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I think we got a little bit of rain this week in Tampa, but we could definitely use some more. Yeah, I'm still really just so excited after that Brandon Lau walk-off home run last night. That was amazing. Definitely felt it coming. He's so good.
He's so good.
Yeah, he
It's on
battled
so
that
many
at bat and
levels.
then just took
Well,
it.
the thing that I loved about that at bat were like there was you could see his plate discipline in that at bat. Like there was a couple pitches that were close to the zone, and he just spat on them. The bat control to hold up, and then just waiting for the pitch to come inside, and then just turned on it. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, he definitely. Yeah, it's just so much fun. This team is awesome. They're on 137 win pace, but obviously not going to keep that up. But it's still pretty fun.
It is very fun, and
I mean, maybe they could keep it up. Who knows?
you never know. Well, and I mean, but is it out of the realm of possibility to think they could win 115? Like, could they win 110, 115? Who knows? It would be fun.
Yeah.
And as long as they still have the chance to do that kind of stuff, it'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Some other things we do need to mention. The Rays did lose their first game of the year since we last recorded, and they ended up dropping the series actually in Toronto, but they won the final game. Springs is likely headed towards Tommy John surgery. He hasn't officially made a public decision, but looks like that's where it's heading. They also win the series in Cincinnati after dropping the first game there. They win the last two. And then, as we already said, last night they started off this homestand with the win against the White Sox, thanks to Brandon Lau and also Christian Bethancourt with his home run in the ninth inning too. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool stuff. And I saw a stat this morning that the Rays are 11-0 to start the season at home. And they're again in there's one team in the modern era that's even done that before. And then all the other teams above them are like the Gothams and the whatever weird names of the 80s, like the 1880s teams. It's so fun to be in this rarefied air that we're the only people we're comparing this team to is pre-integration, plumbers playing second base type of baseballs. That's the kind of dominance that we're seeing to start the year. And it's fun to be a fan of the Rays right now. It's a good time to be a Rays fan.
Yeah, anytime you're compared to a team that your great grandparents might have seen, might have heard on the radio, that's pretty significant. So yeah, great stuff. What's also pretty significant is if you could share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share all of our stuff at RBLR Sports. It can help us put together some great things for all of our great listeners. Some of you are great, some of you aren't, but that's okay. We can find us on all of our social medias at RBLR Sports, and yeah, just continue to subscribe, share. Even if you hate us, just share us out of spite. Every little bit helps, and yeah, we continue to grow. It's been really cool to see that organically over the past year, really. I guess over a year.
It's been, and I'm enjoying being a part of this too. This has been a lot of fun, and I think it's only going to continue to grow and improve. And I think it's fun to also see as we're seeing, our fan base improve, or not improve, but grow. We're also seeing. I feel like every time I turn on a Rays game, the crowds are just continuing to get bigger and bigger. I feel like the days of the Tompkin tweets of our attendance to this very big series of 7,000 people, those days seem like they're kind of over. The fans are coming out every single game. They're packing the stands. There's excitement around the team. It's exciting to see this team that has been so successful for so long, is now getting the recognition from the local fan. And a lot of it is not, it's not for lack of fans wanting to go to the game. It's a lot of frustration with the stadium location, but it's cool to see these fans who are like, you know what? I don't care if I'm stuck on the bridge for an hour. This team is worth seeing. Even if I get stuck on the bridge for, an hour and a half, it's worth it to see this team play.
Yeah, we actually had a question this week from a listener. at on Twitter at Truculent H. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Sorry if I'm butchering that. They said decent crowd for a Friday night as compared to recent years. Is the Tampa Bay area finally sold on this team? And like you said, I mean, it's a great team. People want to come and watch it, but I think the marketing has gotten a lot better over the past couple of years. Like, I mean, like they've always like advertised in a way, but like the Devil Ray Friday home game thing they're doing, Randy Land now, the fan
Yes,
section out in left
so fun.
field, really great promotional items. Like they've got Brandon Loud dog tags. It's not just like a bobblehead type thing every once in a
No.
while. Like they've got like cool, weirdly specific things, like with the Brett Phillips like basketball jersey, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of like, you know, the team has been good for like 5 years now,
Yeah.
or like really good for 5 years. I know they had their like early 2000 or like 2008, like that's where they really turned the corner. But lately they've been good and people want to watch it. The Trop is awesome. I don't know anybody that's been like people that hate the Trop are the ones that haven't been there before. Like once you're
100%.
there once, you're at least going to be like, oh, this is kind of nice to like be indoors, 72 degrees, really great amenities, great food selection, great atmosphere. Like that place gets loud. Um, and nobody that's actually been to the Trop hates the Trop. So, yeah, just get out there. It's fun.
Yeah, I wish that I lived in the area because I've been to the Trop a couple of times, and every time I've been, it's just been a blast. It's a good place to watch baseball, and I know that people complain about the catwalk and the turf, and I complain about the turf a little bit, but the actual stadium, like what as a place to watch baseball, is excellent. And I've been to quite a few MLB stadiums, and still and some very famous ones, but I still really enjoy watching baseball at the Trop.
Yeah, it's a nice experience. Unfortunately, the Rays were only there one time this week, as we had a couple road
Yes.
series. One of them, the first one, obviously we already know they lost the series to the Blue Jays up north. They picked up the final game of that series, so it wasn't a sweep, but yeah, the run prevention just wasn't preventing runs. Defensive miscues, free passes to batters. Umps were not great, but like if you don't like any of that stuff, you kind of just have to pitch better and play better.
Yeah.
Yanni and Fleming did a good job to save the bullpen in those first two games. They ate a lot
Mhm.
of innings. Offense got better when the umps got better, which is it is what it is.
What
But
a
really,
coincidence.
it's they threw they kind of like lost the games on their own. Like they gave those first two games to the Blue Jays with their
Yeah.
pitching and defense. Like if they just played like average pitch, if they had
Yeah.
average pitching, like played their average level of defense, they would have probably won those two games. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's a little comforting knowing that the Rays are only losing when they're beating themselves, but
Yeah.
it's also still frustrating to lose those games because we haven't really had a game yet where the Rays just got flat out beat like by the other team, like pound for pound. Like it's been the Rays stepping on their own toes or getting in their own way.
Yeah, and when you look at those games too, like we only allowed 5 and 6 runs in both of those games. So even when we're losing games, we're not getting blown out. Like
No,
nobody has blown us out the way that we've blown them out this season. Like even in that series, like we lose the first game 3-6, we lose the second game 2-5, and the third game we beat them 8-1. By the way, against their number one starter. So like
yeah,
it's 100% the case that when we are really tested against the best of our best opponent's best stuff, we tend to turn out well. And I think as we've mentioned earlier in the show, losing Springs, I gotta believe we don't. One of those two games we probably are not losing if Springs is in the rotation, even if he doesn't start those games. The effect losing him is having on the rotation, and losing Eflin this early this season, it's like it. I will say that those two games, at least one of those games, we probably are not losing if Eflin and Springs are both healthy. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world to lose two games on the road in Toronto. Like it's kind of not a big deal to me. You're gonna lose 50 games a season pretty much all the time, and those are just two of the games that we lost, and it's not that big of a deal.
yeah. And it doesn't help when the umpire is calling what it was like almost 15% of pitches taken outside of the zone with Blue Jays pitchers. Those were called for strikes, but like 6% from the Rays pitchers. Like it's that's not even close. So, I mean, I get it. It's like they're at home in Toronto, whatever. It's the umpires are the
Yeah.
umpires. It's fine, but I can't wait for robo umps. And we actually do have another question from someone, MLB J Northall. They said, interested in your thoughts on how the Rays will fare against teams that are over 500. They're currently 1-2 at the moment, with the Blue Jays being the only team at that level they faced. Um, I I think it's like too early to like say which teams are going to be 500 or better. Like it's just there are good teams and bad teams, teams trying to find their footing. The Rays trying to find their footing after, having 3 starters with Glass now, Eflin and Springs, like not, it's been weird with the bullpen usage. They played like 13 games in 13 days. So it was, I mean, it's not an excuse, but it's a reason. So I think they're going to find their footing. Obviously, they'll play better teams, but like the Tigers they beat the Astros, and the Rays like blew them out every game. They won the series against the Astros. The Tigers won their series against the Guardians. Like nobody really knows who the 500 or better teams are going to be yet. So I don't really have an answer to that question because we are 17 games into the season.
Well, like put it this way, is there any major league team that if you said you're going to lose of your top 5 starters, you're going to lose 3 of them in the first month, that you would expect them to be 14 games over 500 at the end of them? Like there is no team that you would ever expect to be that successful with the amount of losses that the team has had. We almost don't even think it's a big deal because of how we just have this next man up mentality. If the Yankees lost, Cortez and Herman and Severino. I don't even know if Severino's pitching for them, but like, you know what I mean? Like if they lost those guys, they would be, the sky is falling. Our season is over. Like, but for the Rays, it's like, I guess Cooper Criswell will just come up and throw 4 innings and we'll win. Like, it's to say that they haven't performed against 500 or above teams is kind of misleading because like you said, we're so early in the year, but also you can't and I don't know that the teams that are supposed to be 500 or above, like the Astros who are playing next week, you would say, oh yeah, how are they going to play? The Astros are a below 500 team right now. I don't know if you've checked their record. They're below 500 team. So it's all nonsense for the first like 2 months. Like, are you going to tell me that the Astros are a below 500 team? Of course not. It's all nonsense. And the fact is you play the games that are in front of you, you win those games, you will succeed. You cannot control your schedule. You can only control what you do on the field. And as long as you do that and continue to perform well, that will pay dividends. At the end of the year, all these teams are going to look back because everybody's playing the same teams. So when you look back at the end of the year, everybody's going to look back at their record against these bad teams. And if the Rays continue to have this good of a record against these teams, it kind of doesn't matter if they split the difference against the good teams, because guess what? We're going to have the number 1 seed because the other good teams have already shown they're not going to dominate the other teams at the level we're dominating them right now, or they haven't yet at least. So I'm not worried at all about our performance against top teams because I have no reason to believe we won't perform just as well as we're performing now.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about the Astros, like even the Dodgers, I think are below 500 right now. And they almost got perfect gamed by Drew Smiley.
They did.
So like
still in the league.
It's so early. It's impossible to tell.
Yeah.
But thank you for the question. It's final answer, too early.
Too early.
But yeah, any other like takeaways from that Toronto series other than like the defense and the run prevention just needs to prevent more runs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I also do. The only thing that makes me have a slight pause is we saw a little bit of we were performing not as well as I would have liked against some of Toronto's subpar pitching, and then we face Manoah and we destroy him for 7 runs. So like, there's a little bit of like, let's make sure that we're not doing that thing where we play at a level of our competition. Like I don't think it's and I think that the Rays have done a good job since then of dispelling the idea that that's the thing that they do. They played really well against another subpar team after that, even though they lost 1 game. So I'm not worried about it. But like, that's the only thing that I have seen from the Rays in like the last 3 years that has given me like some concern, like long term, is that they can sometimes play at a level of their competition. So I hope to not see that. But at the same time, it's awesome to go out and, do that against the other team's number 1 pitcher. I think that was the most impressive thing of this series, is that when you needed when you were going up in a chance where you could have gotten swept against their number 1, you did not, and not only did you not, you blew them out. So
Right.
and you didn't like survive through the first 6 innings, then get to the bullpen. No, you got to their starter and got him out of the game. Like that was an impressive win. That was a very impressive win to me on the road to get to their number one guy and get him and and put up 7 runs on him. Like to me, that's very impressive.
Yeah, and with Barrios and Kikuchi, like they were getting calls that were half a foot off the plate. Like there's only so much you can do, and those games would have been closer if the Rays decided to go with like their A bullpen, but like they didn't. Like they just had Yanni in the last like 3 innings of that first game, and then Fleming. Like, so I mean, those are guys that I mean, most likely, unless something like dramatic changes for them, like they're not going to be pitching in October for this roster.
No.
They're just they're not. It won't be needed, so they're just going to eat up some innings now and keep the Adam Fairbanks and all the other like A+ guys healthy. So yeah, whatever. I'm not mad about it. It's just like it was pretty fluky to lose those 2 games because that's not who the Rays are. They've been such a good like run prevention team. Like the offense has been fun, but like they're not going to be what is it like a 158 WRC plus offense the whole year. Like that's like 30 points higher than the next closest team. It's just not going to happen. But the pitching and defense will be there, and we did see that in the final 2, especially the final 2 games of the series against the Reds. But yeah, they went into Cincinnati on the road and won that series, which was cool because that has been a house of horrors for them for like almost a decade now.
Yeah. Very weird that they just like, and last year was like an actual nightmare because I believe we lost Wander. We lost somebody else too. I can't remember who else.
KK got his hip surgery
right.
like or he was had his hip thing like right when that series started.
That was a nightmare.
There was something else too. I forgot.
I can't remember what else, but
there was the Matt Whistler like balk off that ended one of the games.
I remember that. It
was just hurt.
It was just weird and like get me out of Cincinnati series where it's like this is bad juju. Like you just need to get out of the city because it's not happening. So good to expel some demons there. We kind of expelled the A's demons earlier in the season. Maybe we can expel. We're just gonna go slowly and expel all the demons of our weird inability to beat teams this season. That'll be a good storyline to watch. But yeah, I mean the first game again, it's a situation where if we aren't down 3 starters, what happened in that first game is probably not happening. Like it's just not happening. It is what it is. Again, it's not. I'm not moved by that game. Like that's the only game that the Rays got blown out. And again, like if in any other scenario, you would have seen Adam and Clevenger in the game earlier, but it's clear that they just feel like it's not that big of a deal. They're not gonna worry about it, and kind of if you have to lose, it's almost like they're like, okay, we know we don't have our A starters right now, so we're gonna sacrifice maybe one game in this series, and we feel confident if we can sacrifice one game, we may win it anyway, but even if we don't, we're gonna win the next 2, so it's not even worth worrying about.
Well, they still like. The ball just wouldn't find the grass in that game. Like they had like almost double the expected batting average of the Reds in that first game, but they ended up going 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Like so many like line drives that I know Brandon Lau had like one to the wall that was almost a home run. He had one that was like almost a line drive like that would have put the game within 1 like down the line, but the first base, I think it was Will Myers like made a crazy catch. Like it was, and the Reds defense is bad too. So they're not really like that, but they were like that for about 8. They were like that for about 8 innings. The corner outfielders each had like a couple sliding diving catches. So yeah, that first game, like they still played really well. And they also just the ball didn't find the grass. So they decided to like kind of not punt it, but they didn't put in their A guys again, which is totally fine because you banked, 13 straight wins to start the year. You can afford to keep Fairbanks in the bullpen and Adam fresh as long as possible. But then they went out and like the ball found the grass in the next 2 games and it found some seats in the outfield thanks to Taylor Walls and Yandy Diaz. So yeah, really good stuff later on in that series, even though it wasn't that bad to start off.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where you're gonna have some rough games. It's gonna happen in the season. It's not something that I'm worried about. I'm more impressed by the way that we went out and won the next two games. Especially when it could be easy to just kind of fold after having a rough start. Like you just go out, you bring your lunchbox with you to work the next day, and you get the job done. And that's all you can really ask them to do.
Yeah, I mean it's and they did that like really well, like bouncing back from losses. I know it took a couple games for them to do that in Toronto, but they really didn't, like we said, they didn't look bad in those first two games, and
No.
they didn't look bad in the first series in the first game against the Reds. So um Taylor Walls was really cool in that series. Like he was just at another level. I think Wander getting a root canal was a nice opportunity for Taylor Walls to kind of step in and show off how strong he is. So really like the new swing from Taylor Walls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Taj looked great too. Like
So good.
I mean, it's still like I mean, he was great, but like there's still more for him to do. Like there's still a
Yes.
lot of room to improve, and he was that good. So that's really encouraging. Like he dominated.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting some nice strike calls like above the zone too, which kind of feeds into his game plan already.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was working for him for the most part. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool to watch him continue to go out there and dominate, especially considering that we're kind of putting some pressure on him. Right? It's like, well, we don't have Springs, and
Yeah.
Tyler's not back yet, so guess what, kid, you're up, and we'll see what you got. And I will be on the edge of my seat this on Monday. I think he's starting against the Astros. Um, I am very excited for that game. I'm very excited to see how he performs against one of the premier offenses in baseball. Or at least what one that has been. Maybe it has been this year. It'd be interesting to watch that. But like it'll be because there's some very seasoned and very good hitters in that lineup. It'll be very interesting to see how he performs against them. Although we've seen in the first start against Boston that he was not afraid to attack the best hitters in Boston's lineup. So I just think he has a lot of confidence in his stuff, and I'm excited to see him keep throwing it.
Yeah, I mean he shoved Rafael Devers in a locker, so I hope he can do that to Jordan Alvarez. Maybe we can make that a shirt like I don't know, like a Taj Bradley get bullied shirt or something. I don't know, because
You have
he's
been
kind of
shoved
like,
into
I
a
mean
locker.
he seems like a really nice guy and he's like super confident, but like he bullies the other team. Like he's going to come at you with a fastball and he's going to say,
Yep.
try to hit this, I dare you, and then they
Yep.
don't, and it's really cool. So but yeah, speaking of shirts, liking and subscribing is cool. It's important. It's free. But if you want to take it a step further, you can support us by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com. Buy some team inspired merchandise,
Mm-hmm.
emphasis on it, inspired. We've got all of our cool designs honoring our Rays, our Rowdies, our Bucks, our Lightning. Lightning are in the playoffs right now, so definitely want to buy a shirt to support them. And if you would like to get 10% off your order, you missed out on the 13% off, but 10% still pretty good. You can use promo code FLAPPY, that's FLAPPY. Buy a shirt, um, or we're gonna bully you like Taj bullied everybody in that Reds lineup for a couple hours. So I don't
Yeah,
know. Protect yourself by giving us money. Give us your lunch money.
unless you want to get shoved in a locker, let's
Yeah.
hop on over.
Yep. I'm gonna bring a locker to your house and we'll put you in it. And yeah, that's it.
Personally,
Absolutely. Okay. White Sox series not White Sox series, Rays series against the White Sox, because
yes.
they had no business being at the Trop last night. They got bullied a little bit by the hot start from the offense,
Mm-hmm.
including Josh Lowe just um, just continues to hit the ball,
Yes.
and his swing is kind of cool because he doesn't have much of a follow through, so everything he does kind of looks like an accident, but it's fine. It's cool because he's really good and it's his coming out party.
Yep, and it's fun to be here for it. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if before the season, one of the things that I really wanted to see was, can Josh Lowe take the next step and be an everyday starter for this team? Because I think the best version of this team has Josh Lowe as a consistent starter and a consistent contributor. And
Yeah.
he, so far this year, that's exactly what he has been. He has been phenomenal. I believe he leads the team in OPS plus at this moment. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's him. I think it's actually. I think I looked at it last night. I may not have updated, but when I looked at it last night, the top three were Josh Lowe, Taylor Walls, and then Brandon Lau, which is just, if you had told me that at any point after the first 2 games of this year that the top 3 of this, the top 3 in OPS would, number 1, not include Wander and Yandy, and number 2 would include Walls and Josh Lowe, I would have told you were a liar. But apparently this is the season we're in. This is the era that we're in, and I am here for it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I mean, I love it. It's been fun. We also saw the bullpen last night. Just really uncharacteristic with the walks and like hit batters. Like that's not them. That's not who they've been. Like they've never been that under Kyle Snyder.
No.
So that's going to get cleaned up. I think it's just everybody's in a really weird spot with their usage. Like all the higher leverage guys aren't getting used as much because they want to like continue to manage their workloads, keep them fresh as long as possible. So like the not as good pitchers are getting a ton of work, but then they're also kind of getting used in a bunch of different spots because of all the injuries to the starters. So it's weird. Things will settle down. I'm absolutely not worried about that at all. But we did get a couple questions about the bullpen. So one was it was on Twitter from @Chris Goatwin. Said, is the Rays bullpen kind of bad this year? He said Poche, Fauché, Beeks are pretty shaky. Outside of Pete and Adam, do we have trustworthy relief pitchers?
Yes, we have Clevenger, who's also just really relief pitcher. The thing about Poche, and this is what I was gonna say about this. So I actually saw this question earlier. This is what I want to say about Poche. He is not the guy to be he is not the fireman. No. He is a great guy if you just need an inning from him. He has this weird ability. Like if he is put in a clean inning, the weird stuff will happen and there may be a couple guys on, but no runs will score somehow. He has the ability to do that more times than not. He's going to come out and give you a clean inning. He's not the guy to put in when you need to get out of a jam. That is what Jason Adam is for. And when that was the time that it happened before was an anomaly, I'm pretty confident that it was just literally a scenario in which Adam wasn't ready yet and they had to throw someone out there and Poche was more ready. Like that's not going to happen. So like, I wouldn't be worried about Poche. We have Adam, we have Fairbanks, we have Clevenger. Poche. Beeks, I think, is just going through I have decent confidence in Beeks. He just had a rough go, had a tough outing. Like it's going to happen. He's actually gotten a lot of usage in the last like 2 weeks. He's been out there a lot, so he may just need a rest because he's been out there a decent amount. I don't think they're overusing him, but he's definitely gotten a lot of use. So he probably just needs to calm down a little bit and he'll be fine. Fauché, I understand why they decided to try it, putting him in a starter role. I just think that was I think it's going to be a one-time experiment. I don't think that really is what he is best at. I think he's fine in one inning role, and maybe multi-inning roles depending in later in the game. But like, I don't think putting him in as a starter is the best solution. And I think they were just trying it because why not give it a shot? It's early in the year. You can try it. Clearly your offense can cover for you if it doesn't work out. But all these things that you're seeing happen right now are not what you will be seeing, as Ben has an earthquake, not what you will be seeing in the postseason. You're not going to see Fauché starting a game. You're not going to see Beeks in the third inning. It's not going to happen. Just keep that in mind. Like whenever you say I'm concerned about this, just keep in mind that this is stuff that they're doing this on a home game on a Friday against the White Sox, not in game 3 of the ALCS against the Astros. Like I wouldn't be worried about it at all. In reality, when you're talking about, from a postseason perspective, you really need like 4 or 5 guys to be really good. And they have that in this bullpen. Yeah. So I'm not worried at all.
No, absolutely not. Like anything, like they have the roles are really fluid right now. So it's hard to say who's a reliever, who's a starter at this point, but they have like a top 4 like reliever ERA right now. Like it's fine. Like don't worry. You're good. We also kind of had another question related to this from at JClaireB on Twitter. Said some Star Trek stuff, which I don't really understand because I'm not a nerd. But then they said last night the bats bailed out the bullpen. Is this sustainable? Kind of related to this, like I don't really think that it's going to be necessary for the bats to bail out the bullpen, which is good because, like we said before, 158 WRC plus and 137 win pace, like that's not sustainable. But their 3.9 league leading base running metric is sustainable. They're league leading with both a 2.80 ERA as a pitching staff and a 3.25 FIP. That's sustainable. Fifth in Fangraphs defensive rating, sustainable. Second fewest outs on the bases, sustainable. Fifth highest extra bases taken percentage is also sustainable, and being second in defensive efficiency is sustainable. So like they're doing all the little things right that are sustainable, and like that's what they've done in the past. The offense, it'll be above average, but not 58% above league average. Like that's unfortunately that's not true. So sorry if this is your first time coming to terms with that, but they won't need the bats to come through, but it's nice that they have the ability to do that when needed.
Well, I think what is true is like, I think this is kind of what you're saying. The level of what the bats will need to do is going to come down.
Yeah.
Over the year. Like right now, they have just as a context, in the 17 games they've played, they have scored enough runs to win last night's game 10 times, which is insane. They've scored eight or more runs 10 times this year so far. So that's wild. But as you go on in the season, you're going to need to score probably 3 to 4 runs on like to win almost every. Like I could see like this is a team that they could easily go on a 20-game stretch where if you score 4 runs, you're going to win almost all your games. Like that's the team that's the team that we have here. And I think as the offense regresses a little bit, the pitching will, which is crazy to say the pitching is going to improve because it's already like the best in the major leagues.
Yeah.
But it's going to get better. Like the starters we're going to stop having these weird multi-reliever start situations. We're going to start to see more usage of our top relievers when they're needed in situations where we normally would see them. Like Kelly closed out the game last night. That would not happen most of the time. Like it just wouldn't. So as it's gonna settle, but because of the talent that this team has on both sides of the ball, it's gonna settle in a place that ends in the similar outcomes. It's just gonna be a different score. It's gonna be 4-1 instead of 8-0, or 3-4 instead of 7-8. That's all the difference is going to be. The wins I think are going to continue. It's just that the score is going to look a little bit different over the year. But in the end of the day, wins are all that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I 100% am on the same page with that. Like I'm having fun with these blowouts, but it's not going to last. But they won't also need to score so much, hopefully. Assuming health and all that stuff, and like Kyle Snyder doesn't get like kidnapped in the middle of the night by aliens or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing we have to be concerned about. So I guess I get the Star Trek thing there. That kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, yeah, no worries. This is fun. It's a party being a Rays fan right now.
It is a party. It's a genuine party, and it's funny. I keep expecting the offense to start regressing, and it just hasn't yet. And I'm like, but what if they just don't regress ever? It just like continues to not. That would be very fun. I don't think when we'd be putting up like historical numbers offensively, which I just don't think it's going to happen. But it would be very fun, and I would love to see it. And the other thing I will say though is I think there are some players that won't regress. Like I think Brandon Lau is probably going to be the same player he is today throughout most of the year. The interesting thing is, and this is the reason why we've had such incredible numbers offensively, is the other players on the team. Like Randy, Wander, Yandy, and Brandon Lau are probably going to be fairly the same throughout the year, which is crazy because they're all really good. The interesting thing to watch is how the rest of the team, and specifically 2 players, for me anyway, is Walls and Josh Lowe. How they go will be very interesting to see how like the overall like run scoring of this team, because if those guys continue to play well, this lineup, it becomes incredibly difficult to navigate, because like you saw last night, like I guarantee you that this White Sox closer did not envision giving up a 1-run shot to Christian Bethancourt. Like that is not what he planned. He planned on an easy out for Bethancourt and then having to fight through, Yandy and Brandon Lau. But that did not happen. So like this lineup, you cannot take a nap anywhere in this lineup right now. And I think that's what's resulting in so much success, is because there is nowhere you can just like that's an easy out, because no one's an easy out right now.
No, and of course not. And that's what they've built this team for. Like in the off season when people were crying about, we have to go spend $12 million to get Brandon Belt or Joey Gallo or whatever. Like this core is really good. This is sorry, I keep having
Earthquakes.
kicking my table. They built this team for that, where this core is really good. It's among like one of the best, cores of like 4 or 5 guys on any team in baseball. And then you've got, the fringe guys at the roster who, they might be up or down between AAA and the majors at points, or they might like be in a bench role at times. But if you hit on like 2 or 3 of those guys,
Yeah.
the Rays are solid. But right now they're hitting on everybody, like you said, like everybody's contributing. So, and when somebody stops contributing, they've got Jonathan Aranda, they've got eventually Curtis Mead, they've got Rene Pinto. Like they have so many other options that are really good internally. And if they need to, they can obviously go outside of the organization to some extent. But yeah, this is what they plan to do, and they're doing it. They're executing, and it's been amazing. So fun stuff. So speaking of execution, we're not going to execute anybody, but there were a lot of players that executed well at the plate this week. So who is your bat of the week?
So this is tough because like there's so many players that like that could get this. I'm gonna give my bat of the week to Taylor Walls just because I did not expect it. I did not expect it to be on a Taylor Walls cycle watch this series. This season. I did not expect it at all. Nor did I expect the reason that he probably didn't have a chance at the cycle to be that he hit 2 home runs. Like I was like, oh well, it's too bad he hit 2 bombs because he's probably not gonna get the cycle now. Like,
yeah.
Wild. It's truly wild stuff. But like the triple earlier in the game speaks to how dangerous he can be because of his speed. Like he has a lot of tools in his toolkit that he can use to be a weapon offensively. And obviously we know about his defense. So like if he's going to play like that offensively, he's going to be an incredibly valuable player for this team. And it's funny because before the year, I was kind of like I wanted Walls to succeed, but I just kind of was like wondering how much longer he has with this team, because if he continued to perform at the level he was performing previous, it's like, well, he's just kind of a utility guy and nothing more. But now we're like, you had a great tweet earlier in the week about, it was one of your game notes about, is this the next Ben Zobrist? Like, is that what we're watching? The second coming of Ben Zobrist right in front of our eyes, which would be super fun. And I would love for that to be the case, because he's just a fun player to watch. And he performed really well this week, and I think he deserves the recognition. I don't know if he's going to play well enough any other week to get the bat of the week, so I'm going to give him my bat of the week this week.
Yeah, he was also my bat of the week. He was fantastic. Like, I'm happy to give it to him because, like you said, he might not have another shot at it. And this is such a prestigious award, so we want to make sure
it's very prestigious.
We are very stingy with it. But yeah, Taylor Walls, he actually led all of baseball this week with a 386 WRC plus. Also led baseball with a 0.7 FWAR. And he was second to, I think, Jack Sawinski on the Pirates with Taylor Walls had a 1796 OPS. Sawinski had like a 19 something OPS. But Walls also led all of baseball and the Rays, of course, with a 718 weighted on base average.
Wow.
Played fantastic defense too. Just a fantastic offensive week for Taylor Walls. So good for him. It was really fun. I hope he can, if he can be a league average bat, he's going to be like a 4 to 5 win player. Like, that's crazy. Just because of how good his defense is. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's when Walls and Wander were both kind of coming up, we kind of had this like vision of, because Walls was playing well at AAA, so it's like, what if we have this right side of the or left side of the infield that's Wander and Walls, and you have this incredible duo, and we kind of got tampered down of that because he didn't perform as well at the beginning, but it's almost like we're kind of seeing that now. What we kind of thought we might see and now it's coming to fruition. So it's just super fun.
Yeah, it's so fun, and he's always had like good like launch angles, and he hits like the sweet spot a lot, but he just never really had much pop. But he bulked up a little bit, changed his swing, and it's paying dividends already. So good for him. What about your arm of the week?
So my arm of the week, it may sound a little, maybe this is a cop out because he was my arm of the week last week, but my arm of the week is Shane McClanahan, because to what was again impressive to me, and this is why I'm going to keep saying he's the ace of this staff, at least right now, is because you were in a scenario which you lost the first 2 games of the series. You needed your guy to come out and shut down the opposing team so you could get a win, and that is what he did, as opposed to the other team's ace who did not. you needed him to come out and be that guy against a very dangerous lineup. Whatever we want to say about the Blue Jays, that lineup is dangerous. There's a lot of guys in there. Almost all of them can hit a home run at any moment. So there's a very, very dangerous lineup you're up against. And he came out and he did exactly what we needed him to do. He got a 6 innings, 1 run allowed, 6 strikeouts. And again, like, I think that the strikeouts and the walks are not where he wants them to be right now.
Yeah.
But I think this is, again, like, I think he is not at the height of his powers right now. I think he's still figuring some stuff out. His fastball is continuing to ascend, and I think he's figuring out his pitch mix a little bit more. I don't think he's quite where he wants to be with his pitch mix yet. But when he gets there, if this is how he's pitching now, when he's not quite there yet, when he gets there, it's only going to be even better. And he has shown the maturity to perform when needed, when the team just needs you to have a shutdown start. The maturity to be able to go out there and do that is what makes him an ace and one of the top 10 pitchers in baseball easily.
Yeah, for sure. He was just he came out there and he did what he had to do. It was amazing. Lots of confidence from Kevin Cash in him too.
Yes.
Because McClanahan, he's a great strikeout pitcher, but he's kind of an even better like ground ball pitcher. So Cash was confident in that, and he ran an outfield of, I think it was Luke Raley in left, Josh Lowe in center, and then Vidal Brujan in right. So that's the outfield he's putting out there for McClanahan start, but it worked. That's not the best defensive unit for sure. But, Cash is confident in McClanahan. McClanahan's confident in himself, despite not having his best stuff yet. Yep. And it's kind of exciting because we haven't seen him like really hit his stride yet. And he's 4-0 with like a sub 2 or like a sub 3 FIP, I think. Like it's really impressive stuff. So yeah, he was fantastic. And he went out there and on the road did it against a pretty good team.
On the road. Yeah. Yeah. It's just exactly what you need from your guy.
Absolutely. My arm of the week, I doubled up, running it back, Taj, once again. He led the team with a 0.53 FIP, led the pitchers, and also led the pitchers with a 0.4 FWAR, and he led the pitchers with a 31.7 whiff rate, with a minimum of 5 innings pitched there, because there were a couple like 2-inning guys that were getting some whiffs. Yeah. But yeah, Taj was absolutely dominant. Not much else to say. Like, he just comes out and he deals, and he knows how to pitch. He takes advantage of, what the umpire is giving him in that game by continuing to pound above the zone with his fastball. The curveball, like we kind of expected, isn't really that great of a pitch. So it wasn't really working for him that much. So we went more with his off speed and his cutter, and those 2 pitches were fantastic. I really like where the split changeup is moving towards. I think that's a really good pitch for him, and I'm excited about that. Lots of swing and miss coming, and just another dominant outing from someone that the Rays kind of need to be good right now.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned about him having, and he did this in his first start too. He has the maturity as a pitcher to realize, hey, this pitch isn't working, or hey, this pitch is working, and make adjustments in game to his arsenal to better attack the hitters. And to me, that's such an impressive thing for someone who's so young, to be able to be that analytical and like observe what's working for him and what's not, and make those adjustments is super impressive for someone his age. And again, the fact that he has 4 pitches that can work any given day and a plus fastball, like, he has that one of my favorite qualities of a pitcher, and it's not quantifiable. It's the, can they make the opponent look bad quality? And it's my favorite quality in pitchers, of like, he can just do things to just make the opponent look bad. And it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he did face a pretty depleted Red Sox lineup, and he faced the Reds. So not too hard to take over a game there, but he still is doing it as like a 22-year-old, 23-year-old rookie. Like, really impressive. He's not going to be that great every game, but it's nice that he's able to do that right now, with Springs going down likely for the rest of the year and most of 2024. And then, Glasnow and Eflin still working their way back. Just great stuff from Taj Bradley, stepping in when needed, kind of a bit sooner than expected, but he got it done.
Yeah, he did. And, that's kind of what this team is all about is, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be moments where someone's needed to step up. And the Rays are really good about letting these players know that we have confidence in you. We, even yesterday with the Fauché thing, like, I don't think it was the best idea, but it's clear the Rays have confidence, and having confidence in your players is always going to turn out well for you, even if the results are not always what you want. that mindset and that, an atmosphere around your clubhouse is only ever going to be good things for your team.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for most of our questions and stuff. I think we'll have a couple more as we wrap up here with like some injuries and other miscellaneous news. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, keep any criticism to yourself. We will talk about anything. Just send it to us, tweet at us individually, whatever. You can follow us at RBLR Sports on all social media. We also have our at RBLR Raise account. You can tweet at us, all that stuff, and we'll talk about stuff. We'll try to fit it in when relevant. Anything that might not be super relevant to what we're going to talk about, we'll throw in at the end. Like I have one question I want to do that for, and then I have another that's kind of injury related. So I do want to run through. I've got like 7 guys here, but most of it's good news.
Yes.
Sean Armstrong, he's been throwing off a mound. He will likely begin his spring training style build up pretty soon. He got moved to the 60-day IL. But that doesn't really change his timeline.
No,
He's still going to come
really.
back like end of May anyways with this spring training build up stuff. Ryan Thompson is doing fine. He should be back literally as soon as he's eligible. I honestly don't even remember what he was hurt with. So I guess that's a good thing. Tyler Glass now threw a bullpen, feeling 100% healthy. He's going to face some batters on Monday in 2 simulation innings. And then that's kind of like going to kick off his spring training style buildup. So he's going to be back like mid to late May. Kittredge is back after the All-Star game. Nothing new there. Springs, like we said, Tommy John is going to be an option, but he still hasn't decided. Almost done here, trying to speed run. Siri got in his first rehab game last night, went 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, something like that. Doesn't matter. His glove is important. So he DH though, so I'm sure he'll get in the field a little bit this weekend. And he should be back in that series against the Astros, which is cool. And Eflin is going to be back tomorrow. He
really happy about
MRI was totally fine. Everything's totally fine. Looked great in his bullpen. He'll be back pitching tomorrow, so that's a good boost for the pitching staff. And Shane Boz, like we know, he won't pitch this year, but he is playing catch, and he will be back next year.
Good.
And I think that's all of our injury stuff. Oh, the injury question from Twitter user at Justin Altman said, when Jose Siri returns, do you think we see a Rayleigh Ramirez DH platoon? And then just some other stuff for context. But yeah, I mean, what do you think happens with Rayleigh and Ramirez? And who do you think is going to get optioned when Siri returns?
When Siri returns, I would imagine Brujan is getting optioned. I don't really think he has a role on the team if Siri's here. At this time. And then, I mean, I think that's what I hope that's what it is. Cause I mean, I love Luke, and I will say I would much rather see Luke Rayleigh in the outfield than Harold Ramirez. Luke Rayleigh is a perfectly fine, and he has a good arm. I think he has a pretty decent arm. He's made some good throws this year. The mobility is kind of whatever. He's not slow, but he's not, we have faster outfielders. I'd rather see Marco out there. But he's fine. But I do think it's more likely to see him as a DH type of role. And please, can we just get Harold off the field? I want him on the field in the batter's box. He's doing really good things consistently at the moment, but I do not want to see him in left field or right field anymore, please.
Yeah. Luke Rayleigh does have a 72nd percentile sprint speed this year. Last year, I think it was like 90th percentile. Margot's got 74th percentile this year. He's lost a little bit of speed. And I think Randy was like weirdly really low. He's 48th percentile right now. So, I mean, he's, right up there in terms of like athleticism, even though he kind of looks like a baby giraffe when he's running. But yeah, I mean, he's still like, he's a great like left-handed platoon guy. And I think DHing in a platoon with Harold is a great idea.
Yeah.
I think Brujan will go down as well once Siri gets back. So, we'll see. But Rayleigh, I mean, he's like the next guy out, the odd man out after that, because the Rays do have Aranda, who basically kind of fills that similar like DH first base type role.
Yeah.
I mean, Rayleigh can play the outfield. He can be a pinch runner. Aranda can't really do either of those things, but his bat long term is definitely more promising. So, yeah, thankfully they don't have to make that decision yet, though, because it's probably just going to be Brujan.
Yeah, it'll probably be Brujan. I also think that I would much rather see Aranda replace Ramirez than Rayleigh for kind of the reasons you described. Mostly just because if you have, I really can't see a scenario in which you have Ramirez and Aranda on the same team, because you just have two black holes of defensive ability, which just really not like does really not line up with the way the Rays do things. So, and I mean, it could change. I mean, certainly there could be a scenario in which it has to happen based on, who's injured at the time. But I would be very surprised to see Aranda and Ramirez on the same roster of their own free will, unless Aranda makes some serious like improvements defensively.
Yeah, I don't really know how he's been doing defensively down in Durham. He's doing pretty well with with his bat,
Yeah.
obviously, because that's his thing. Drawing a lot more walks this year, striking out a little bit more, but nothing like concerning or out of the norm. But the walking is impressive. So he's getting on base and he's hitting the ball hard. Those are two really good things that I hope he can sustain at the major league level. But that is pretty much it. I do have this final question here from @DipperPine777. He said, "What do you think is the likelihood of trading Margot either this All-Star break or off-season?" Said, "I don't really hate Margot. However, he has the fourth highest salary behind Franco, Glasnow, and Eflin. All those guys are unlikely to move at this moment. Defense is really good. Siri fills that role well. They can replace defenders pretty easily. Right now, he's batting .220, and that's pretty much all the stuff that I'm getting here." He said Brujan could fill his role, or Rayleigh, or maybe Cardenas or someone else could get called up. So basically, do you think they're trading Margot at this point in time, like this season or in the offseason?
I mean, it's possible. I don't really. I mean, I kind of feel like the only way they would do this is if somebody's really playing their way onto the team and they really feel the need to move on from him, because like I don't think his salary is a huge deal for them right now, unless they feel like they need to move his salary to do something else, which doesn't seem like that's really happening right now. So I would be surprised if like he's not the guy that I would assume to get moved. I mean, I guess he could get moved. It's possible. But I would not anticipate it. Like I would not be expecting it personally.
No, absolutely. Like he's such a big clubhouse guy too for this team. Like he's one
Yeah.
of the veteran leaders. Like the Rays aren't going to go out and get Baumgartner. He's not a veteran leader. He's terrible. He's a terrible person, terrible clubhouse guy. Don't want him anywhere near the team. He's a terrible player too. Like he's really bad. Like he's unfixable as a human being and a player.
Yeah, not good.
No, but Margot on the other hand is awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody in the clubhouse loves him. He's a great defender. Really great against left-handed pitching. He can be like league average against righties. We've seen flashes of that. Like he's still kind of finding his footing this year, but he'll be fine. Not worried. Batting average, I forgot that existed. So yeah, I think Margot is an awesome piece on this team, and I don't expect him to go anywhere. But the Rays listen to calls on everybody. They don't really have somebody in Durham or like at the fringes of the roster who could come in and play center field every day. We've seen Josh Lowe try to do it. I mean, he's not a terrible defender in the corners, but he is not good in center. Brujan is not a center fielder, an everyday center fielder. Siri is, and Margot won't have to be when Siri gets back. But yeah, I don't really expect Margot to go anywhere.
No, and that's just kind of not a bad problem to have, that you have two good center fielders. Like I'm pretty happy with that. And would it be nice if he performed a little bit better offensively? Yes, but he also might. He probably will. He's just not performing right now. Like there's no reason to believe he won't perform better. Like as recently as last year, his name was Manny Margot ahead, because he was he was literally like an RBI king for like a decent portion of last year. So I have no reason to believe he won't return to that form at some point. It's like, oh no, everybody on this team is playing really well, except for, I guess Luke Rayleigh and Margot are not hitting quite as well as we would like. Oh no, it's so terrible. They'll bounce back. They'll be fine. Both of them will be. So I don't think there's any need to, unless you're going to trade for a center fielder. Like, I mean, maybe there's a scenario in which they're but like, there's no need. Like, center field is not a position where they need to upgrade, because there's not really, there's not a whole lot of like center fielders that are like a huge difference maker offensively in the league. And the few ones that are, nobody's parting with. So,
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and like Margot is fine against righties. I'm pretty sure, like this year. I mean, for his career, no, against lefties he's fine, but okay, no, this year he's been a little down, but it's 20 plate appearances. I'm not making a judgment decision on 20 plate appearances. If you do, then that's probably not good for whatever fantasy team you're in control of, whoever's out there jumping the gun like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Unless you had anything else, miscellaneous stuff. Nothing's really catching my eye here.
Do we want to dignify the Shohei Ohtani trade discussion that is sort of flying around on?
I'll give it
on
10
the internet.
seconds of time.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing I'm just gonna say on it is like the minimum. If you're trading for Shohei, just be aware that you're losing. You're probably losing Taj. You're probably losing Mason Montgomery. You're probably going to lose Mead or Yandy or Randy or both. Like, so if you want Shohei, that's awesome. And I want him too, but just be aware that you're losing a lot of your really good players if you do that.
Yeah, he is the best player in baseball right now. He might be the best athlete on the planet. He's probably the best baseball player since Babe Ruth. I don't think it's really like crazy to say that. He's a top 10 hitter and a top 10 starting pitcher in one roster spot. You got to give up. I mean, I think Wander straight up for Ohtani. I think that would be a fair price just based on the value.
Yes. Yeah.
Or it's like Randy, Yandy, Mead, and Taj. I think that would be fair for Ohtani, but like they don't really need Ohtani. I mean, it'd be cool to have him, but maybe they can sign him in free agency for a discount because of how nice the coaches are. Maybe he really appreciates that.
Maybe he does. The only scenario, and I'll also mention that, like, the only scenario in which I'm even remotely interested in trading for him is if, and this scenario could happen, if the Angels are playing poorly at the middle of the year and they are facing, because what sparked all this is Basan had a tweet that Ohtani does not want to stay in a losing organization, and if they continue to perform poorly, he will leave. So if they get to the middle of the year, the trade deadline, and they get the sense that Ohtani is kind of out and like they're not performing well and they're out of the wild card race, and they're faced with the option of either losing the best player in baseball, maybe ever, for nothing, and they may get desperate and try to trade him for something. Maybe that's a scenario in which the Rays make a phone call because they're like, well, if you're going to be desperate, we'll take advantage of your desperation. But other than that, I really don't see them parting with those pieces to get a player that is the best player in baseball, but is not really a need for this team. So,
yeah, I it's not really a need. I'm sure they'll like make some kind of offer because it always comes out like a couple years later that they made an offer to like the big free agents. But
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just draft Jock Caglione from Florida and you'll be good.
Yeah, same player right there.
Same exact player. Well, not yet. He's working on it, but
yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, give us 5-star reviews on Spotify and the iHeartRadio app and Apple, Google Podcast. I didn't even know Google did that, honestly. They got their hands in everything. You can follow us and share. I have to blow my nose. I don't know if you can hear that, but I won't do it on the show. But we are on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook Marketplace. I don't know.
Facebook Marketplace. We're there.
Yeah,
Raise up.
Raise up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.